Have you ever wondered who you are when you're not thinking? What remains when the constant chatter of thoughts dissolves into silence? What if I told you that beneath all your thoughts, emotions, and sensations, there exists an unchanging field of pure awareness, your true nature, that has never been born and will never die? In this moment, as your eyes scan these words, something within you is witnessing the experience. This witness, this presence, has been with you your entire life, yet remains mysteriously overlooked. It's closer than your breath, more intimate than your thoughts, and more fundamental than any identity you've ever assumed. What if the freedom you've been seeking in achievements, relationships, and experiences has been hiding in plain sight, disguised as the very awareness through which you perceive everything? Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the weight of your body against the surface supporting you. Notice the sounds around you, near and far. Feel the gentle rhythm of your breath. Now, ask yourself, who or what is aware of these sensations? Who is listening to these sounds? Who feels this breath? When you look for the one who is aware, what do you find? Is there a separate entity doing the perceiving, or is there simply perception happening within a boundless awareness? Most of us move through life completely identified with the content of our experience, our thoughts, emotions, sensations, and the stories we tell about ourselves. We are like waves that have forgotten they are the ocean, believing ourselves to be separate entities struggling against the vastness that contains us. But what happens when we turn our attention toward awareness itself? What happens when the perceiver becomes the perceived? This is not an intellectual exercise. It's an invitation to recognize what you already are: pure awareness, the screen upon which the movie of your life is projected. What exactly is this awareness we're exploring? It's not a thing or an object that can be grasped by the mind. It's not a concept or an achievement. It's not even a state of consciousness that comes and goes. Awareness is the unchanging context within which all experiences arise, exist, and dissolve. It's the knowing space that remains constant while thoughts, emotions, sensations, and perceptions flow through it, like clouds passing through the sky. Imagine a mirror reflecting everything that passes before it: a flower, a storm cloud, a face twisted in anger, a smile beaming with joy. The mirror reflects all perfectly, without preference or judgment. It doesn't cling to beautiful images or reject unpleasant ones. It simply reflects what appears. Now, consider the nature of this mirror. Does it have a shape or color of its own? Does it get stained by what it reflects? Does it become more complete when reflecting something beautiful, or less complete when reflecting something ugly? Pure awareness is like this mirror. It has no inherent form, color, or qualities of its own. It simply reflects whatever appears within it, while remaining completely untouched by the content it illuminates. In our ordinary experience, we perceive the world through a subject-object relationship. There's a me over here experiencing an object over there. This dualistic perspective seems so obvious and natural that we rarely question it. But when we look closely at our actual experience, something interesting happens. When we try to locate the me, the subject who is having experiences, we can't find anything solid or permanent. We find thoughts about ourselves, feelings, sensations, and memories, all changing and impermanent, but no fixed entity that could be called a self. What we discover instead is awareness itself, a knowing presence that isn't separate from what it knows. In this recognition, the conventional boundary between subject and object begins to dissolve, revealing a non-dual reality where awareness and its content are not two separate things. Here's a paradox that the mind struggles to comprehend. Awareness is simultaneously empty and full. It's empty of inherent qualities. It has no form, color, size, or location. Yet it's also full in the sense that it contains and permeates all experience. This emptiness is not a void or a vacuum. It's a luminous emptiness, pregnant with possibility, alive with intelligence. It's the womb from which all phenomena are born and the space into which they dissolve. As the ancient texts say, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. The objects of our experience, form, are ultimately not separate from the awareness, emptiness, in which they appear. Another remarkable characteristic of awareness is its timelessness. Thoughts come and go, emotions rise and fall, sensations appear and disappear, all within the field of time. But awareness itself doesn't come and go. It doesn't age or deteriorate. It doesn't get born or die. Look closely at your experience right now. The content of your awareness, thoughts, feelings, perceptions, is constantly changing, like scenes in a movie. But the awareness itself, the knowing presence within which these experiences arise, remains unchanged. This awareness was present when you were a child, through your adolescence, and into adulthood. Bodies and minds change dramatically over time, but the awareness that knows these changes remains ever present and unchanged. This timeless quality of awareness points to something profound. What you truly are is not confined to time or space. Your essence, pure awareness, exists beyond the conventional boundaries of birth and death. If awareness is our true nature, why don't we recognize it? Why do we suffer from feelings of lack, limitation, and separation? The answer lies in what spiritual traditions call identification or attachment. Instead of resting as awareness, we habitually identify with the objects that appear within awareness, particularly our thoughts, emotions, sensations, and the self-image they construct. From early childhood, we're trained to value thinking above all other human capacities. Our education systems, career paths, and social interactions all reinforce the supremacy of conceptual knowledge. As a result, we become hypnotized by our own thoughts, mistaking the map for the territory. Thoughts are powerful tools, but they're limited in a fundamental way. They can only represent reality. They can never be reality itself. When we mistake our thoughts about life for life itself, we're like people dying of thirst while dreaming of water. Most importantly, thoughts can never capture our true nature. Awareness is the background that makes thinking possible, but it can't be contained by any thought. It's like trying to capture the sky in a box. The very attempt misses the boundless nature of what we're seeking. At the core of our suffering lies the sense of being a separate self, a me, at the center of experience. This center feels solid and real. It appears to be the thinker of thoughts, the doer of actions, and the experiencer of experiences. It seems to have a past and future, hopes and fears, likes and dislikes. But when we look closely for this me, what do we find? We find memories, sensations, desires, fears, and self-referential thoughts, but nothing substantial that could be called a self. The separate self is less like an entity and more like a process, a complex activity of thinking and feeling that creates the illusion of a fixed center where none actually exists. This doesn't mean you don't exist. It means you don't exist in the way you've always believed, as a separate entity encapsulated within a body. Your true existence is awareness itself, boundless, formless, and intimately connected with all of life. Perhaps the greatest irony on the spiritual path is that the very search for freedom and fulfillment often reinforces the sense of separation it aims to dissolve. When we seek awakening or enlightenment as a future state to be achieved by a separate self, we perpetuate the very illusion we're trying to see through. This is why many spiritual teachers say that awakening is not about gaining anything new, but about recognizing what's already here. It's not about becoming more spiritual, more peaceful, or more enlightened. It's about seeing through the mirage of the seeker itself and recognizing the awareness that's already fully present. The good news is that liberation from suffering doesn't require years of arduous practice or special abilities. It requires only the willingness to look directly at experience and recognize what's already true. Throughout history, spiritual teachers have used various methods to help seekers recognize their true nature. One of the most direct is simply pointing to awareness itself. Right now, as you read these words, notice the awareness that's present. It's not something you need to create or achieve. It's already here, already functioning perfectly. It's the knowing space within which these words appear. Can you see that this awareness is already complete, already free? It doesn't need anything to be added to it or taken away from it. It's not damaged by painful experiences or enhanced by pleasant ones. It's the unchanging background against which all experiences come and go. This recognition that awareness is already free, already complete, is the essence of spiritual awakening. It's not something that happens to a person. It's the recognition that what you truly are was never bound in the first place. One of the most liberating aspects of recognizing awareness is that it collapses the psychological dimension of time. When we're identified with thoughts, we live primarily in a narrative that stretches from the remembered past to the anticipated future, with only occasional visits to the present moment. But awareness itself doesn't exist in time. It's always now. When we recognize ourselves as awareness, the burden of psychological time, with its regrets about the past and anxieties about the future, falls away, revealing the eternal present in which life actually unfolds. This doesn't mean we can't plan for the future or learn from the past. It means we no longer live in a state of psychological exile from the present moment. We can use thought to navigate the practical dimensions of time while remaining grounded in the timeless awareness that's our true home. Most of us are deeply conditioned to believe that certain experiences are essential for our happiness, while others threaten our very being. We spend our lives chasing pleasant states and running from unpleasant ones, creating an exhausting pendulum of craving and aversion. When we recognize ourselves as awareness, we discover a freedom that doesn't depend on experience. We see that awareness itself remains unchanged, regardless of what appears within it. This doesn't mean we become indifferent to pleasure and pain. We still have our human preferences, but we're no longer tyrannized by the compulsive need to control our experience. This is the freedom to allow life to be as it is, to embrace both its beauty and its pain, its joy and its sorrow, knowing that our essential nature remains untouched by the ever-changing show of appearances. While the recognition of awareness can happen in an instant, most of us benefit from specific pointers and practices that help cut through our habitual patterns of identification. Here are 4 approaches you can experiment with. Several times throughout your day, Pause whatever you're doing and shift your attention from the content of your experience to the awareness in which it's appearing. This doesn't require stopping your activities. You can do it while walking, talking, working, or resting. Simply notice that all your experiences, thoughts, emotions, sensations, perceptions, are appearing in and as awareness. Notice that this awareness is already present, already open, already allowing everything to be as it is. This practice helps break the spell of constant doing and reconnects you with the dimension of being that's your true nature. This ancient inquiry goes to the heart of the matter. Rather than accepting the usual answers provided by thought, I am a person, I am my body, I am my history. Let the question penetrate deeper. Ask yourself, who or what is aware of my thoughts? Who or what is aware of my sensations and emotions? Who am I beyond all descriptions and labels? Don't settle for conceptual answers. Let the question create an opening in which direct recognition of awareness can occur. Remember, you're not looking for a thing or an object. You're pointing to the awareness that's looking, the subject that can never become an object. Instead of trying to find or become aware, experiment with resting as awareness. Awareness is not something you create or achieve. It's what you already are. Simply relax and allow everything to be as it is. Let thoughts come and go without following them. Let emotions arise and pass without resistance. Let sensations appear without trying to change them. As you rest in this allowing presence, you may notice that what you truly are is not any particular experience, but the open awareness in which all experiences appear. The sense of being a separate self, the feeling of I or me, is at the root of our suffering. By investigating this feeling directly, we can see through the illusion of separation. When you feel strongly identified as a separate self, perhaps during a moment of stress, anxiety, or strong emotion, pause and locate this feeling of I in your experience. Where is it located? What sensations, emotions, or thoughts constitute this sense of self? As you investigate, you may discover that the I feeling is just another appearance in awareness, not the awareness itself. It comes and goes, while awareness remains constant. This recognition can dissolve the apparent boundary between me and not me, revealing the boundless awareness that has no center or periphery. Recognizing yourself as awareness is not the end of the journey. It's the beginning of living from this recognition. As the initial insight deepens, it begins to transform every aspect of your life. It's important to understand that the recognition of awareness is not a philosophical position or a belief system. It's a direct, non-conceptual knowing that transcends the mind's categories. Many seekers get stuck in conceptual understanding, collecting spiritual ideas and experiences while missing the living truth to which these concepts point. The map is not the territory, and no description of awareness can replace the direct recognition of awareness itself. The test of authentic recognition is whether it liberates you from suffering and transforms your relationship with life. True recognition isn't something you believe, it's something you live. As recognition deepens, the boundary between spiritual practice and everyday life begins to dissolve. You realize that awareness is not something you connect with during meditation and then lose in activity. It's the ever-present ground of all experience. This integration happens naturally as you continue to rest as awareness throughout your daily activities. You no longer need to escape the world to find peace. You discover that peace is inherent in awareness itself, which permeates every aspect of your life. Perhaps the most beautiful fruit of recognizing awareness is the natural flowering of love, compassion, and joy. When the sense of separation dissolves, we no longer feel isolated from life. We recognize our intimate connection with all beings and respond naturally from love rather than fear. This love is not a feeling that comes and goes. It's the natural expression of awareness, recognizing itself in all forms. It flows without effort, without agenda, and without conditions. In a world that constantly pulls us into identification with limited aspects of our experience, the recognition of awareness offers a profound liberation. It's a homecoming to what we've always been, boundless, peaceful presence that contains and transcends all of life's dramas. This recognition is not reserved for special people or distant futures. It's available here and now to anyone willing to look beyond their conditioned patterns and recognize the awareness that's already perfectly present. In the next 24 hours, I invite you to experiment with the practices offered here. Don't take anything on faith, test these pointers in your own experience. See for yourself what happens when you shift from identifying with the content of awareness to recognizing yourself as awareness itself. What do you discover when you look for the one who is aware? What changes when you rest as awareness rather than seeking it? How does this recognition affect your relationship with thoughts, emotions, and the world around you? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your insights might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to recognize their own true nature. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Every authentic recognition of awareness ripples out and supports the awakening of all beings. In that sense, your awakening is not just for you, it's a gift to the entire universe. The invitation is always open. Awareness is always here. The only question